Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Carolina Panthers Madden 20 franchise. As you can see, we're about to get into Week 14. There's 4 games left on the schedule, which means that we are 3/4 of the way through the season already. It's been an interesting year for the Panthers. A very similar outcomes to the year before. The only difference is that we did manage to get a tie and a win instead of 4 straight losses after a 6-2 start, which of course in 2018 led to 7 straight losses. And so yeah, the third quarter of the season was very interesting. Of course, a tie to the Falcons. I mean, yeah, I should have made the field goal because they didn't ice me. And it was a straight-on shot from the 15-yard line. Or the ball was on the 15, so it would have been kicked from like the 19. But you know what I mean. 29-yard field goal straight ahead. Should have been a make. So here we are. One of the things that I haven't done is I haven't been showing the upgrades of the players because I've been upgrading them week by week. But I thought one of the things I could do for the channel was, since I'm only doing these like around the league episodes, just for time's sake, every 4 weeks or every quarter of the season, that I would save those so I could upgrade with you guys. So we did our weekly training for this week. Of course, 7-4-1 Panthers. We got the 5-6-1 Falcons. Will be our next game, and that's going to be a huge game, huge playoff implications. We can potentially knock the Falcons out of the playoff race altogether with a win. If the Falcons win, it puts our playoff situation in doubt. So very, very important game. But anyway, we will go to upgrade players. DJ Moore does have an upgrade, and we are going to do the deep threat again. Raise him up to an 83. Let's see, +1 awareness, catching traffic, deep route elusiveness, and +1 speed, so he gets a speed point on that. He's already a speed guy, so that's a good upgrade for him. We'll go to Brian Burns, who again I have upgraded his superstar ability, and I'm wondering, because he is on track to get not only the defensive rookie of the year, but also the defensive player of the year altogether. He is number 1 in both of those award races, and he's probably going to get a Pro Bowl. I just can't imagine how many experience points I'm going to get. He might be an X Factor player his sophomore year of the season, but we're going to continue to upgrade his speed rushing. As you can see, he goes up 2 more points. Did he get no speed this time, but he gets +1 acceleration, +1 awareness, +1 man coverage, +2 pursuit, +2 zone coverage, +1 tackle. So he's gone from an 80 overall to an 82 overall, and he is quickly just developing into a monster edge rusher for the Carolina Panthers. Curtis Samuel gets an upgrade as well. We're going to continue to work on his deep threat abilities. So he goes up to an 81 overall. And did he get a speed upgrade? No, but he does get +1 awareness, 2 catching traffic, 1 deep route, 1 medium route, 1 release, and 1 spectacular catch. So Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore are really developing into both could be considered number 1 wide receivers eventually, I believe. So they're going to be 2 guys that we really want to hold on to, because they both can take we've seen it in this series. DJ Moore's got a 90-yard touchdown, and Curtis Samuel's got a 70-yard touchdown, and both players' yards per catch is really high. So these are 2 playmakers that I'm going to want to hold on to. We'll kind of see Curtis Samuel next year. His rookie contract will be up. He was a 2nd-round draft pick, which I don't know if Madden, if they've updated it to have the 5th-year option yet. I know they said that's going to be in one of the updates early on this Madden season. I'm not sure if they've done it yet or not, but he will not he was a second round pick, so we don't have to worry about that for him. That's going to be more for Christian McCaffrey next year. So Andre Smith, all the upgrades. We'll see if it changes our overall team. Is still 81 overall, 85 offense, 81 defense. So all the ratings have gone up. The overall ratings for the team have gone up since the beginning of the season. So that's what you want to see. We'll go into some stats here. As we can see, the Carolina, the 23rd ranked offense, but the number 1 ranked defense as far as yards allowed. 16th in points scored, so middle of the road as far as points scored, and 4th in the NFL in points allowed. So definitely been carried by the defense so far this year. As we look at Cam Newton, he's got 3,000 yards, 3,100 yards passing so far. 66% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. So with being over 3,000 yards already, he is definitely on track to give a 4,000 yard season, which I believe would be his first 4,000 yard season since his rookie year. As unbelievable as that sounds, I think that's right. Let me double check that. Let's see. As you can see, he's got +2 morale right now, which is good. But what am I doing here? Let's look at his stats. I think he's only had the one 4,000 yard season his rookie year. Yeah, that's it. That's really unbelievable. He almost had it there, but you can see, yeah, that's really crazy that he's only had the one 4,000 yard season. So we'll look at rushing. Christian McCaffrey, he's dealt with injuries this year. He's missed several games in a row with the shoulder. He's been knocked out of a game early. He's been knocked out of a couple of quarters in some games. So he's been battling injuries, having a hard time staying on the field. So as we enter the fourth quarter of the season, 542 rushing yards, only 2 rushing touchdowns, 3.7 yards per carry. That's a disappointing year for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, it's not all his fault, but still you can see the numbers as far as yards per carry and touchdowns have gone down since last year when he had that outstanding campaign as a sophomore in the league. So, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt, I think, this year because of the injuries. But, he's got to prove he can stay healthy next year. And 2, he's got to come out and put up the kind of numbers the next season that he put in last season. I mean, we've still got 4 games left this year. I mean, you figure if he can still get to it's kind of a long shot, but he can still get to 1,000 yards rushing if he can get a little over 100 yards per game down the stretch, which, that's unlikely. But, this number, I mean, if he has a good last quarter of the season, puts up some numbers here, I mean, that would be good for him and his confidence, and also people that ranked him number 1 in fantasy PPR leagues this year. Curtis Samuel leads the way in receiving, 855 yards, 5 touchdowns. Right behind him is DJ Moore, 815 yards and 5 touchdowns as well. As you can see, I was saying the average yards per catch, 16.8. So they're getting, each one of them is getting about 17 yards every time they get the ball, every time they get a catch. So, they're making big plays. It's just, DJ Moore's been stopped at the 1 yard line several times. Curtis Samuel makes, big yardage plays, but they're not always touchdown plays. So, but these are 2 big play electric wide receivers, and they are, like I said, I mean, they're on their path to having the Panthers have 2 wide receiver 1 capable wide receivers on the same team, which that can lead to some issues, obviously, with egos and stuff like that. But this is Madden, and that doesn't factor in. Torrey Smith is the 3rd leading receiver. He's having a good year as the slot receiver for us this year, as you can see with the 41 catches, 528 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 43 catches, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. So he's still been, even with all the missed time he's had, he's still been a reliable target in the passing game for Cam. A reliable check down as well as a playmaker in his own right when he gets the ball through the air. Greg Olsen, he missed several games this year with a shoulder injury. You can see he's got 24 catches, 343 yards, only one touchdown. And Ian Thomas has stepped up pretty nice for him when he's been called upon. 11 catches, 134 yards and a touch. Jordan Scarlett, of course, got his second receiving touchdown of his career last week. Alex Arma and Chris Hogan, his only catch this year has been a 5-yard touchdown. So that's what it looks like for receiving. We'll look at the defense. Luke Kuechly, of course, leading the way. 111 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 1 interception, and he has got still the 11 forced fumbles. Now, one of the things about this game that I started to notice was fumble numbers were really inflated, so I bumped up the CPU's fumble slider up to, I think, 75, just to combat this a little bit. I've still seen a couple of fumbles, but Luke Kuechly had those 11 forced fumbles in like the first 9 games this year. And I made a comment in the last around the league that I didn't really have a problem with that because he's a superstar X Factor, and these are the type of players that you want. But it started to get to where like I was just feeling like, this is just, Luke Kuechly's just going to force a fumble, and it just kind of took away some of the immersion for me and some of the, some of the challenge from the computer, which I'm really big on feeling challenged. I obviously don't want to get cheesed by the CPU. I don't actively try to cheese the CPU myself. I'm just looking for, and I feel like I've gotten mostly this year has been all close games. So, I just like to feel challenged and feel like if I win a game, I really did beat the computer. And so with all these forced fumbles, it just seemed like every time the computer would have a good drive, we'd force a fumble. So I was just like, you know what, let's turn that down a little bit. So Obi Melifonwu, second in the team in tackles is 72. He's got 2 sacks. No interceptions yet. And of course Eric Reed, he had the 3 sacks last week. Those were his first 3 sacks of the season against Washington. Brian Burns, 13.5 sacks, 62 tackles, 14 tackles for a loss, with the 13.5 sacks for the rookie. And like I said, he's on track to get the Defensive Player of the Year for the NFC, as well as the NFC's Defensive Rookie of the Year. And he's going to be a Pro Bowler for sure. That's 3 yearly awards. And I remember in last year's Madden, like, you got these seasonal rewards and they really gave you the XP. So I can't imagine if he continues to play like he is and he sweeps those Defensive Player of the Year awards, gets to the Pro Bowl, man, he's going to be a monster. We'll look at some of these other players. Dante Jackson's actually got 60 tackles. He's got 3 interceptions, but a lot of those came early in the season. Bruce Irvin, he's been having a solid season. We brought him in to be a pass rusher. He's not really producing there, but he's made, as you can see, 14 tackles for loss. He's actually been a force against the run, believe it or not. James Bradbury, he's got the 2 interceptions so far, 4 pass deflections, and he has no sacks. Shaq Thompson, kind of a disappointing year for him. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's missed 6 or 7 games, I believe. So, let's see if it'll tell us how many games he's played. He's played in 8 games, but, a couple of those where he was knocked out early. So he's missed basically 6 games because 2 of those games he was knocked out early. So, still, with that being said, he's got 45 tackles and 3.5 sacks. So, I mean, he's had a pretty good year considering the injury issues that he's been plagued with. And Gerald McCoy, he's got 3.5 sacks. Kind of a disappointing year for McCoy. He's been solid against the run, but definitely not what we were looking for as far as pass rushing goes. And Mario Addison, he's had, you can tell that, he's about at the end of his rope has far as being a consistent pass rusher for the Panthers. Now, he's been picking it up lately, but for the first half of the season, I think he only had 1 sack. And over those last 4 games, he's picked up 2.5 sacks. So he's starting to pick it up a little bit, but he's definitely been regressing a little bit this year. And Dontari Poe, I mean, playing the nose tackle, I mean, he's been pretty good. I mean, you know, he's only got 14 tackles, only 1 sack, but you know, he's been doing. I've noticed that he's been doing a good job in the run game, engaging and setting up the linebackers to make plays behind him. So those are kind of the defensive leaders for your Carolina Panthers. We'll look at the kicking. Graham Gano, 22 for 31, 70%, 19 for 25, 76% extra points. So, I mean, I kind of make it seem worse than what it really is in the highlight videos, but really missing 6 extra points in 12 games. I mean, that's 6 points you leave on the field right there. And then, of course, the debacle against the Falcons where they didn't get a kick meter at the end of the game. I mean, I'm just, you know, what can you do? So we'll kind of look at this here before we look at the standings, and then I will get up out of here as we look at the MVP race. Tom Brady right now sitting atop that with Matt Ryan and Josh Allen competing, as well as Ezekiel Elliott and Aaron Rodgers. As you look, no Panthers in the top 10 in the race for the MVP. Coach of the Year, Matt LaFleur. He's got the Packers 11-1. They were flirting. They had a 10-0 record, or 11-0 record. Excuse me. They were 11-0, and they were flirting with a perfect season. As you can see, Ron Rivera, 9th in the race for Coach of the Year. He's got the Panthers at 7-4-1. And Ezekiel Elliott, definitely the Offensive Player of the Year so far this year. Defensive Player of the Year, like I was telling you, Brian Burns and Luke Kuechly is second. So Brian Burns and Luke Kuechly, apparently the top 2 defensive players in the NFL, according to these award races. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Kyler Murray, of course, is having a great season as far as for being a rookie. And Jordan Scarlett's on there, but you know, he had a 97-yard run and a touchdown catch in the same game. So, you know, maybe that's overrating him a little bit to bring him up to number 2 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But other than that, I mean, he's been pretty solid. So, Defensive Rookie of the Year, of course, Brian Burns. I mean, he is just having a dominant rookie campaign. We'll look at best quarterback. Matt Ryan is winning that race. Best running back, Ezekiel Elliott. Best wide receiver, I don't know if we have anybody. We got Curtis Samuel 9th on the list for the race for best wide receiver, the award at least. And this is best offensive line. Cowboys have 3 of the top 4 are from Dallas. Best defensive lineman, nobody from our team. Best linebacker. Oh, there's another award that he could win. Brian Burns. If he sweeps all the awards that he's eligible to get, I mean, that is going to be sweet. Keanu Neal. And best kicker of the year, Mason Crosby. So let's get a look at some standings, and then I'm going to get out of here. I feel like I'm rambling on along. I feel like this video is gonna be maybe a hair too long, but we'll look at the standings and then I'll get up out of here. So as you can see, the Green Bay Packers with the best record in the league, followed by the Cleveland Browns. So there's the top NFC and AFC teams heading into the final quarter of the season. As we look at the AFC North, of course, the Browns are followed closely behind by the 8-4 Ravens, 5-6-1 Steelers, and 4-8 Bengals. AFC South, 6-5 now are the Jaguars. They were 1-4 to start the season, so a 6-1 run since falling down to 1-4. The Colts are 6-6, 4-8 for the Texans, 3-9 for the Titans. But like I was saying, I mean, this division, I've been saying it pretty much all year. since we've been doing these around the leagues, because there's not been really an impressive record for any of these teams. That, it could be 8 or 9 wins, could win this division. AFC East, the Patriots are also off to a 1-4 start, but they've won 7 consecutive, so they are starting to round out into playoff form. As we can see, the Bills 7-5, the Jets 6-5-1, the Dolphins 3-9. AFC West, the Chiefs are 8-4, Chargers 5-6-1, 5-7 for the Raiders, and 5-7 for the Broncos. Going over to the NFC, we've got the Green Bay Packers at 11-1. They are the top seed in the NFC right now. If the playoffs started today, the Bears looking, battling for a wild card spot, as are the Minnesota Vikings, who have bounced back from a 3-6 start to get to 6-6, get back to 500. And the Lions are, the odds aren't great, but they still have not been mathematically eliminated yet, so they've got a chance to go on a run here in the last quarter of the season. As we look at the New Orleans Saints 8-4, Carolina 7-4-1, Falcons 5-6-1. So again, this game is going to have major playoff implications. NFC East, it's all 6-6. I mean, the Redskins are 5-6-1, but identical records essentially for the NFCs. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's pretty crazy. NFC West, the Rams, they've lost 3 in a row. They started out 7-2. They've lost 3 in a row. They're down to 7-5. 49ers, Seahawks, very, very slim playoff chances, but they've still got a shot to make a run at a wild card, or even this division if the Rams keep sliding. Now they've got Aaron Donald, who's been hurt, so that might be affecting their defense, but the Cardinals are 4-8. So that's a look at the standings. And unless I forgot something, which I don't think I have, we're going to head into the fourth quarter of the season. This is the stretch run. This is where, every game counts, of course, because you got so little of them in the NFL. You've only got 16 of them. But this is where the games really start to count. So we will see what happens. Thank you all for sticking with me. I feel like this video, I kind of rambled a little bit. So if you stuck it to the end with me, thank you. Please give me a subscribe if you like the content. Give me a like. Give me a shout out in the comments. Let me know what you think about the Panthers, either in real life or as they are shown in my Madden franchise. And I'll talk to y'all later.